The current situation inside Iran is getting really bad. People can't even eat properly now. Food prices have increased by as much as 130%. Let's take a closer look at this issue today. Let's get right into it. The war in the Middle East is still ongoing. Although it's called a ceasefire, the clashes between the US and Iran are still continuing. But the problem is that the internal situation in Iran is getting much worse. Prices in Iran have been rising a lot. Let me give you an example. Currently, the monthly minimum wage in Iran is 160 million reals. That sounds like a huge amount. But a May report from the Central Bank of Iran says the year-on-year price increase for milk, cheese, and eggs was 161% for cooking oil, it was 267%, and for meat products it was 176%. Currently, lamb is 22 million rials per kilogram and beef is 15 million, while the minimum monthly wage is 150 million rials. So if you work for a whole month and buy just 1 kilogram of lamb, that's 1/7 of your monthly salary gone. If we compare this to Korea, the current minimum monthly wage in Korea is about 2.15 million won. Lamb is around 300,000 won per kilogram, and beef is about 210,000 won. That's really expensive, isn't it? As a result, rising food prices have caused meat demand to fall by about 50% from last year. Currently, many people in Iran are experiencing protein deficiency, and there are media reports suggesting that malnutrition is occurring among children and adolescents. As a result, Iranians are mainly eating foods that provide a greater sense of fullness, such as pasta, potatoes, onions, and bread. Meat, fish, and fruits are currently considered luxury items in Iran. Right now, the price of a pack of cheese in Iran is 2 million reals. Many people are currently getting by with just bread and cheese, but even if they buy only bread and cheese, they have to spend their entire monthly salary on groceries. Even without including taxes, clothes, hospital bills, or rent, just spending on food alone means people have to use up their entire monthly salary. This rise in prices isn't happening only with food. From March 21 to April 20, the annual inflation rate reached 73.5% compared to the same period last year. Currently, Iran's inflation rate is soaring to the highest level in the world. As a result, the people's standard of living is deteriorating even further. One citizen living in Tehran said that prices for goods they could afford until March have risen so much that now they can't buy them anymore. On top of this, the United States seems to be trying to further amplify this internal discontent. Recently, during airstrikes targeting southern Iran, the United States reportedly struck not only military facilities, but also water-related facilities. A representative example is the southern port city of Soaring. Due to the US airstrikes, 2 reservoirs in the Soaring area were damaged, which disrupted the water supply for residents in the nearby regions. Local authorities stated that tens of thousands of residents are now unable to receive a stable supply of drinking water. These attacks are drawing attention because Iran has always been a country highly vulnerable to water shortages. Iran has long suffered from drought and groundwater depletion, and especially in 2025, the country experienced its worst drought in decades, leading to water shortages across the nation. At that time, some areas had restrictions or cutoffs in their drinking water supply, and there was significant damage to agricultural production as well. During this process, the accumulated dissatisfaction of the residents gradually spread into a political issue. Criticism grew over the inability to receive a stable supply of even essential water for daily life, and this dissatisfaction was seen as one of the main drivers behind the large-scale anti-government protests that occurred in 2026. In local cities and rural areas, overlapping economic troubles and water shortages quickly fueled public criticism of the government. Currently, as US airstrikes target water facilities, the Iranian government faces new challenges. Unlike food shortages or rising prices, water shortages are problems residents feel right away. If the drinking water supply becomes unreliable, residents' dissatisfaction will increase further. The Iranian government says the United States is causing both military pressure and social instability, strongly condemning attacks on water facilities. The unemployment situation is also very serious. In the past 2 or 3 months, the Iranian labor market has been hit hard. With war and economic crisis occurring together, many companies face financial difficulties, leading some to lay off employees. Local estimates say around 1 million people lost their jobs directly because of the war. Including workers from partner companies and related industries, about another 1 million people are estimated to have lost their jobs indirectly. On top of that, Iran cut off the internet to prevent rising anti-government sentiment within the country, and during the internet shutdown, a significant number of online businesses were forced to close. About 10 million jobs were affected, but this unemployment occurred suddenly over a few months rather than gradually over years. Businesses faced raw material shortages, lower production, and reduced consumption simultaneously, making labor costs hard to manage. Layoffs continue in manufacturing, distribution, transportation, and service industries, with small and medium-sized businesses especially affected. The internet shutdown had a major impact, preventing online malls, e-commerce companies, and workers in internet-based service industries from operating normally for months. Many small business owners and self-employed people had to close or lay off staff after sales sharply dropped. There is also growing concern that as overall economic activity shrinks, no new jobs are being created. As the number of unemployed people rapidly increases, the social burden is also growing quickly. Households that have lost their income have no choice but to cut back on spending, and this decrease in consumption is once again leading to a drop in annual sales. As this phenomenon repeats, the overall economic downturn is becoming even more severe. Young people and low-income groups are said to be hit the hardest. As the cost of living rises and jobs disappear, anxiety about the future increases. The main issue is what's ahead, as much uncertainty still surrounds the Iranian economy. Recovery from war damage has not fully begun, and trade and industrial activities have not returned to normal levels. If this situation continues for a long time, the number of unemployed people could increase even more. In fact, some economic experts warn that the current unemployment problem is not a temporary phenomenon, but could become one of the biggest burdens on the Iranian economy for years to come. To avoid this crisis, Iran offers monthly cash subsidies and electronic vouchers for use at select stores, but local response has been lukewarm. This is because the amount of support currently provided is only about $10 per person per month, which is roughly 15,500 won in our currency. With food prices rising by tens to hundreds of percent in months, many worry this support won't sufficiently ease living expenses. In fact, many households find that even after receiving the support, most of it is used up after buying just a few days' worth of groceries. The Iranian government is also aware of this issue. The authorities have stated that they are considering increasing subsidies and providing additional support. However, there are significant practical limitations. Currently, Iran's crude oil exports and goods imports are severely affected by the U.S. maritime blockade and comprehensive sanctions. As oil sales revenue, which used to be the backbone of the national finances, has significantly decreased, government income is also rapidly declining. Even if they want to provide more support to the people, there is a lack of resources to back it up. The government must also fund war damage recovery, including infrastructure repairs, rebuilding industrial facilities, aiding the unemployed, and stabilizing prices, all demanding a huge budget. On top of this, with the currency depreciating, there are concerns that the more the government pours in more funds, the greater the inflationary pressure may become. Because of this, even though they acknowledge the need to expand support, they are having difficulties in actually implementing it. Meanwhile, the Iranian leadership is blaming the United States and Israel for the economic crisis. Masoud Pezeshkian, the president, recently stated that he is aware of rising prices and the hardships people are facing, but he pointed to the war and economic pressure policies led by the United States and Israel as the main causes of the current economic difficulties. Top government officials claim external attacks are hurting the national economy and call for unity. Media tied to the Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps echo these claims. They attribute the recent price surge to economic pressure from the United States and Israel, not natural market movement. Some media say that because the United States and Israel haven't fully met their military goals, they're shifting the battle to the economic front. They stress that crude oil export bans, maritime blockades, and financial sanctions are causing food prices to rise and the currency to fall, directly impacting Iranians' lives. Iran is debating the causes of its economic crisis, but the government and state media blame external pressure and aim to prevent public support from eroding. The most important point to note here is the possibility of anti-government protests. In fact, Iran is a country that has already experienced large-scale anti-government demonstrations several times. In the past, economic problems were also one of the main causes of these protests. As frustration over rising prices, unemployment, and daily hardships grew, more people protested. Now the situation is considered even worse than before. Currently, food prices are surging, unemployment is rising, and the currency is losing value. The ongoing war worsens the situation, increasing citizens' dissatisfaction. In particular, the fact that issues directly related to people's livelihoods show no signs of being resolved is being cited as a major concern. In fact, some experts are warning that if the economic situation worsens further, there is a possibility that large-scale protests could break out again. And even if the war ends, these economic problems are unlikely to be resolved in a short period of time, so there could still be issues even after the war is over. The Iranian government is also well aware of these risks. The reason the Iranian government is currently putting a lot of effort into supporting people's livelihoods and social control is because they are wary of the spread of internal discontent. If prices keep rising and unemployment grows, economic problems could become political issues. Analysts say that what the current Iranian leadership is most concerned about is not external military threats, but rather internal public discontent.